Yeah. Right. I'm giving this to you now because you're going to be moaning for it for a while. And if I don't give it to you, people are going to be like, "Oh, Steve, you're so mean. You should have just given it to me." So, here you go. Here you go. You just dropped half of it. Oh, I'm not picking it up. They stink. These things stink. They're like these little meat stick things. And they're awful. They just smell so bad. And when you get it on your hands, oh, I hate them. Yeah, did you notice that one was like you finished it quickly? It was smaller than normal. It's here. Come on, yeah, come on, up. Come on, come on, up. Yep. Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, you got it. Well done. Great. I don't have to deal with that anymore. Got you out of the way. Cheap popping ratings. Gonna put this in the bin. Got no real point to this one. But I was having a conversation with someone. It's one of those things where it's on my head, and I just sort of want to quickly get it off. And ironically, it's the sort of thing that would be really well suited to YouTube Shorts, but I'm apparently incapable of summing up a point in less than 60 seconds. So, yeah, you get this instead. So I was talking to a fellow detractor. I don't quite feel comfortable naming them. They're not a creator. If I was talking to, say, like Fantastic Mr. Sam or Meerkat Inc., I would feel a bit more comfortable saying, yeah, so I was having a conversation with Mr. Sam. Sort of like, name drop that, I move in these circles. But because they're content creators, they're public figures in that regard, they're individuals that people will know. So I don't feel too bad sort of like mentioning them. Whereas when it's just a detractor that you might chat to in a stream or something, it's a little different. I feel a little more hesitant to sort of name them. So I won't. But we were talking because Phil had said, this thing looks like, an Akira Kurosawa film. It looks like a real Kurosawa film or something like that. And someone said, what's your favourite Kurosawa film? And he went, I've not watched any Kurosawa. So we started talking about that. And we started talking about how Phil interacts with popular culture. And we got onto the point where it sort of went past just not paying attention to what's current and what's popular in terms of like the hot new TV shows and films and bands and things, but how you use those things to interact with other people. It was another one of those things where I thought this is an area where his lack of socialization is essentially killing him. It's like completely crippling his ability to properly interact and socialize with other people. Because but the big one for me, and I'll use it as an example just to sort of lead off to the main point of this, is when he said, I don't know what my wife's watching, I don't talk to her about that sort of thing. When you get in the way of that microphone, it messes with the sound quality. I've noticed this on editing, you muffle that. Yeah. I spent money on a pop filter and all I had to do was like put a couple of dreamies around here. But anyway, so, there was that moment where he said, I don't talk to my wife about that sort of thing. And it's it's a fucked up relationship dynamic, true, but I want to divorce it from that sort of context and just look at it at a more micro level of, well, no, actually, it'd be more macro, wouldn't it? Because if it was more macro, it'd be more specific to them two, whereas more macro would mean it's more general. So, yeah, I want to expand it and look at it at a more macro level of just interacting with somebody that you have a social relationship with in general. If this was anybody else, For Phil, for example, it could have been John Rambo or Howard. It could have been how he interacted with the people in the FGC when he was still going to tournaments, things like that. When you're, not playing the game, but you're hanging out at the hotel, or you're at the bar, or you've gone out to a local establishment for a few drinks. That sort of social context, and things like this, things like culture and what's current and what's popular, not necessarily in like the broader terms of popular culture, but even in your subculture. Like, nobody that watches, say, oh God, it's not even Top of the Pops anymore, is it? But like most, say like Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent, they are not typically marketed towards the sort of people who would have opinions on which Emperor album is the best. Yeah, I'm wearing an Emperor shirt. Which Emperor album is the best? So there's likely to be very little crossover there. So when something massive happens in the world of America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent, the people who are like, fucking 9 Equilibrium's better than Anthem's, fuck you, are not gonna care as much. So not even in the sort of popular culture in that respect, but something that the sort of community that you belong to. Because I'm assuming everybody will have a core identity of some form. Like for Phil, it would have been FGC. For me, it's probably Metalhead. But that's the main one. I'm also a nerd. I'm also playing games, but my main identity is Metalhead. So for me, it would be a metal community. And so you're aware of things within that community. And when you're in that community socializing, you typically, before you get to know somebody, especially when you're sort of like making your initial relationship connections with somebody, when you've just met them, or you're making small talk at the bar. Like, let's say, right, I'd go out to a nightclub. I go out to Rock World in Manchester, back when it was open. I'd be at the bar, waiting for a service, waiting, to buy a drink, and there'd be someone next to me, and, just to make small talk, you'd be like, oh, they're playing this song, it's not the best, is it? I prefer this other work. I prefer this other band. I prefer, this sort. You throw those things out to make the initial connection. So it becomes less about how Phil engages with popular culture and more about how we all use our knowledge of those things and our experiences of those things to form and maintain connections with people. And Phil doesn't. He just simply doesn't. He never talks to anyone about this sort of stuff. Even his chat, when they ask him, he never says, well, he rarely will. It's hard to get an answer out of him when you say, so Phil, what books have you been reading recently? Or, what's your favourite TV show? What have you been watching recently? I believe recently he's been watching MasterChef. This came from, is it Trip to Yumi? I think, the new game that's out. That's sort of samurai epic. Very Kurosawan. Sorry, I fucking love Seven Samurai Throne of Blood. It's one of my fucking favourite films. Well, they're up there, but How do you not see Ran or Yojimbo at least once? Especially if you watch a lot of films, and I don't watch a lot of films. I'm really fussy about like what I'll sit there and do 2.5 hours. Fuck. So yeah, we started to talk, and it got on my mind that Phil does not do this in any way, and it's really hampering him in terms of a healthy psychological build, not just socially but individually, because not only are our social connections, everything from like work colleagues to our intimate partners, not only are those things formed and maintained and even deepened through our experiences and sharing our experiences of popular culture and just culturing our culture with other people, but you also identify with those things. You in a way, your hobbies and your interests become part of you. They become part of your personality. They become part of your identity. This is the whole point of social identity theory, that your personal identity, that how you construct and interpret and represent to other people, is constructed socially, because you do it in relation to other people. You dress a certain way to impress other people, or to impress upon other people an idea of you and who you are and some aspect of your personality. You want to dress well and go out in a nice expensive suit and look like you're rich and wealthy, and you will do that. And if you want to look like, you're a grotty metalhead, you will do that. This shirt has so many holes around the waist because I had one of those studded belts and it would catch. And like over time they ripped a load of little holes. But, and also each sleeve does this because there's thumb holes in them now. But I'm not throwing away this shirt. It's my first gig shirt. It has personal meaning to me, but it's also a part of my identity. It's also like, hey, I'm a black metal fan. I'm a fan of Emperor. I'm a fan of this band in this genre of music. Just like my hair, just like the accessories. These things are part of my identity, and I display them socially to other people. So if you met me in the street, you would know something about me from the way I am presenting this aspect of my life. And there's other aspects. I play bass, so I'll chat shit about bass with you. I'm not the best bassist in the world, but I play drums. I'll sit there and air drum if something cool comes on in the pub. Because my back means I can't actually drum at the moment. I take photographs as well. I used to take photographs. I edit videos. I make detractor content. I have a YouTube channel, which is weird, but putting that to one side, these are things that are part of me and my identity and how I construct me to other people and how other people perceive me, because that's that aspect of my personality that I'm putting out there. And this is also really important when it comes to developing social relationships. To cycle back round to this, I am going to go in circles. This is one of those unfocused ramble things, so strap in. Could be here for a while. Try to keep it under 20 minutes, but so yeah, when you are constructing social relationships, and those relationships do progress through stages where you're initially, you're different with work colleagues than you are to friends that you've known for years. I'm still friends with people from school. Josh is my school friend. I knew him when I was a kid. I've known him all these years. Nigel's a friend from work, but I met him decades ago. So he's been in my life that long. I was at his 40th the other day. The other month. Sorry, Nigel. Not 40 that recent. You are getting older, you old fart. And I came in and I was like, mate, I've realised we knew each other for this long. It's a number that's near 20. So yeah, we've known each other that long. Josh I've known for like 30. Josh I've known for nearly 40. Because I met Josh when I was 10. Kat I've known for over 10 years. Most of my friends I've known for more than a decade. And these are close friends. I have other friends that are not as close, but these are the close friends who know the most about me, because as these relationships have developed from sort of like casual acquaintance to friend, like with Kat and Nige, Josh, childhood friend, you've sort of got all that to go back on. But I've gone from a period of just meeting this person and having them say, oh, hey, nice to meet you, to I know this thing about you. With Nige, it's like heavy metal, because we met because we were going to see Iron Maiden. A mutual friend had tickets, and so we were like, yeah, okay. With Kat we met because we House of the Dead. So you start off with the baseline of I know this thing about you, and it's a cultural thing. It's not necessarily something like oh, it's the newest Game of Thrones, or oh, it's the newest Marvel film. It doesn't have to be something that generic or broad or like with the mass appeal. It can be something like niche, but the point is that you meet through this cultural thing. This is how you establish your first sort of like step. This is your first sort of like attempt to connect in a social relationship. And then as the years go by and you get to know that person a bit more, you let them in a bit more. You let them into a few more of your interests. You let them into your hobbies that are not specifically related to this thing. They may start as tangentially related, because that's the best way to ease someone into something. If you like this band, check out this band. They sound quite similar. So, with Nige, liking heavy metal, liking thrash metal, I'm thinking I can probably get him into some black metal. Not all black metal hits. Didn't like Mayhem, didn't like Emperor, but I slid him some Immortal, and he was into it. So that becomes another thing. That becomes another layer of our relationship, because we're now getting a bit more of a personal bond. Because now it's not just we're going to see Iron Maiden. It's this is a niche part of like my cultural identity that not everybody likes. So by offering this to you, I'm sort of opening myself up a bit. I'm sort of like saying to you, on a deeper level, here's a deeper level of understanding of me. It's not just the surface of an Iron Maiden fan into metal. Yeah, do you want to go out? Okay. But I'm getting to know you a bit more personally. And then once you pass the sort of cultural touchstones, you can get a bit more personal. You get to start to open up to each other about proper things, proper problems, proper opinions and beliefs and ideas, and you start to have those conversations, and there's a bit of back and forth as you sort of feel each other's sort of like moral lines, and you look out for each other's opinions, and you as a relationship grows. I can't believe I'm explaining how a relationship works or a friendship works to people on the internet, but we are dealing with a man who seems like clinically unable to grasp the fundamentals of a friendship. That's why this has been on my mind, because of the Wings bit, because of the PKA bit in the Wings restream. And that's going to be like a massive part of that video when it comes. But for now, I need to sort of like put that bit aside and just sort of focus on this, because again, these things sort of, these cultural incidents, she's doing it. If you can hear it, she's taken to sitting outside the bathroom because she knows that's where water comes from. Taken to closing the bathroom door because when she sits there and meows for water, it echoes. She's really loud. So she's now currently sat outside the bathroom door. This is going to be a mess, this video. More so than normal. So yeah, those cultural touchstones are sort of like essential to maintaining a social relationship, and they may even still stay part of your more intimate and personal, emotional discussions and interactions. Like there may be a period where you're with a partner and you're like, okay, I want to getting into music, and you're listening to this band, and it's like, okay, I want you to listen to this song. It has special meaning for me because it was the song that that I heard when my parent died or something like that. It will be an emotional attachment to something. I want you to watch this movie with me, and this movie is important because I watched it a lot while I was going through some like heavy shit, and it's still an emotionally resonant movie to me. So they're usually ties to popular culture in that regard, that deep in our psyche and our emotional build, but it's just DSP doesn't have them, and he doesn't engage with popular culture. See, even that was the other point I wanted to make. Even if you're somebody who prides themselves on not interacting with popular culture, not necessarily prides themselves on, but if it's characteristic of you, like I'm not really, as a metal fan, you spend a lot of your time sort of like not being part of popular culture. It's an explicit rejection of popular culture, isn't it? In multiple ways. The music, the tone of the guitars, and the vocals seeming raspy, the content of the lyrics, the dress code, the code of conduct around the pit, for example. There's things that seem like a rejection of society and are explicit like declarations of, no, I'm not going to conform to you. I mean, God, I feel like I'm getting like South Park goth about this, but I'm just sort of like trying to elaborate the point that a lot of these things are built socially, and they're built into our DNA, and not our DNA, our emotional DNA, let's say. And even when you have this rejection of culture as an aspect of you and your personality, you still pick up on stuff. I'm not a Game of Thrones fan, but I knew what was going on. I'm not the biggest Marvel cinema fan, but I know enough about Marvel characters to be able to follow one. I can just dip into one and follow one, you know. Or I can pick it up along the way. I can grasp things like the Infinity Gauntlet, and I can grasp things like, you know, Tony Stark having an Iron Man suit being different from Captain America's genetic experiments and super soldier serums and all that shit. You can grasp and put together all these things. So even if they're not 100% accurate, you can grasp these things. That's why a lot of people have been very mad with his Lego Star Wars playthrough. I think the one that stuck out to me was when he said he didn't understand why Vader wouldn't take off his suit if it hurt him that much. And it's like, so yeah. So yeah, the moments like that, they stick out in the mind because they speak to not only an ignorance of popular culture, but an unwillingness to engage with it. Because most things you can pick up just by osmosis, but you will do this through interactions with other people that are into these things. And the point of that is, these things are generally popular, you know, popular culture. So you're probably going to know, if you've got a decent enough social circle, you're probably going to know a couple of people that are into it. You know, I know a couple of people like my mate Karen. They're into Marvel, so I know stuff through them. You know, Cage is also into Marvel, and so you pick up things through your social interactions, because sharing these things, sharing this part of your identity is such a profoundly, it's almost instinctual. You know, it's just slightly, because it requires like understanding context and concepts and empathy and being able to resonate emotionally with another person by sharing an experience. It's that. It's that. These things are all shared experiences. Even things that are typically singular activities, the things that, you know, you would do by yourself. They're not necessarily selfish, but, you know, you typically, you don't read a book together. You both read the book and you go at your own pace. You both have your own copy of a book. You know, sitting there watching telly is ostensibly a passive experience that you do by yourself. You know, but you can do it with other people, and chatting shit about TV shows and talking about what's happening in the show that you're watching and sharing your thoughts and opinions and like resonating with it because you might have had a similar experience. Those sorts of things are just so fundamental to how we interact and to who we are as people. We absorb those things. And it's just jumped into my mind for some reason, Lordi, when it was 2000 and I want to say 6, and it was the Eurovision Song Contest. And it was my girlfriend at the time, and I was round at her parents', round at her mum's. And I remember thinking, I should have put money on this because they're going to win. And I just knew, because not every metal fan is into Lordi, and not everyone who watches the Eurovision Song Contest is into metal. But there's enough of a crossover. There's enough people who know and who can sort of like socially interact and sort of pass it along. Where, you know, you're at work and your mate goes, oh, you're into rock and metal. You know, I know you're into that sort of music. Did you know that one of you, have you ever heard of this band? You know, you're into that sort of music. Have you ever heard of this band? They're at the Eurovision. You know, that sort of thing. It just, and they did. They fucking won by a landslide because enough metalheads fucking found a voting. Because not every metalhead is a fan of Lordi, but when Lordi's there on a global stage representing metal, we're all fucking there because it's metal, and that's what matters. And that's a part of our identity, and that's a cultural thing that we share with other people, and we share it with partners and friends and our family and our work colleagues, and we share it with the people that we are just sat on the bus with or walking down the street next to because of the way we're dressed and the sort of like the way we are, the places that we're going, the pubs that we're hanging out in. All these things interact socially with other people, and they are core, and they are core parts of how you build relationships. They're core parts of how you facilitate social contacts, and they're how you share your identity. They can bring you together. You and your partner can fall in love over a film. You know, you can share a moment. You can have a first dance to a song. You know, you can do these things, and he just doesn't. He doesn't even talk to his wife about what she's watching. I think I should probably save any more for the Wings video, because I think I'm going to end up talking more about that. And the way that this is veering is that he doesn't understand the mechanics of friendship. And I sort of want to go into that more there, because I feel it's way more relevant there, because the PKA section displayed one thing above all else, and it's that DSP doesn't know how friendship works. And watching a narcissist who has no idea how friendship works, trying to grapple with the concepts of friendship and like empathy and wanting to help somebody else despite it not profiting you, and in fact actively incurring a cost to you. You know, he just sort of watching him struggle through that was fascinating. Like on a profoundly psychological level, it was like, is he for real? How does he not understand? Because these are just such basic parts of being human, you know? So yeah, I'm probably going to save that. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of get this off my head, because him not interacting with popular culture is probably now going to stick out for me more, because I feel like it does represent a sort of like a deficiency somewhere in how he forms social relationships. And I think it sort of made me wonder, because he has that preoccupation with appearing like an adult. It sort of makes me wonder, does he think maybe adults don't talk about this sort of thing? Like, you know, maybe adults don't talk about, you know, oh, we don't talk about what movies we saw or what TV shows we're watching. We're adults. We're too busy talking about like work and paying bills and taxes and adult things, you know. Because he seems to come from that sort of place. It seems to come from no, I don't know anything about it. It's a bit like when when I did the whole the Superb Owl Super Bowl thing, and then went, I've done the thing where I mispronounce it, so you all know. Again, that's me saying I'm not necessarily part of this culture. I don't really watch football, especially not American football. So that's like a signal. So you all know something more about me now, because I chose to do that, because that was relevant at the time. They were talking about football, and he was like, fucking knock it off. Again, I feel like it comes from a place of... No, you see, because right? Think about this for a minute, Steve, before you go on too long. That came from a place of, you are not talking about me. Stop talking about the Super Bowl and start talking about the gameplay. That came from that sort of place. Whereas this sort of, I don't watch films. I don't know what my favourite book is. I don't know what my wife's watching on TV. We might watch MasterChef together, but other than that, see, he doesn't share in them either. That was the other thing that stuck out to me. He doesn't share in them the same way. They both have similar interests. He will sit there and watch her play Skyrim, but they don't play multiplayer games together. And that's just alien to me. If you have, shared that level of your life, and I have, over my relationships, I have had to have at some point, I'm going to be sat here playing this for hours, talk with every girlfriend that I've had. I'd like to give a shout out to Rachel, who was a gamer, so it's completely okay. And we played Minecraft together. We had a server, me and Josh and a couple of others, and Nige and Rachel, and it was about 2012. Oh fuck, that was 10 years ago. Oh, I can't keep doing this. Save that for another day. Save that for a private breakdown in a minute. The point is, when you are at the point in a relationship that you are saying, this is a core part of me, this is a thing that I've done for a while, this is a hobby that I like to switch off and play games for a while. And sometimes I play co-op, and it's great. I like to play fighting games with Josh. I like to play Mario Kart with Kat. You know, I like to play. Was it Switch Sports? Did she have? Yeah, it's a Switch Sports one. I look fabulous in that tracksuit. I like to play shooting games with Nige. First person shooters. We played a lot of Unreal back in the day. And when you're at the point where this hobby of yours is being introduced to your partner, and they go, "I'm into that as well. I'm into the same sort of thing. I actually quite like that." You would naturally share those things. You would be like, "Right, let's get some co-op on the go." That's what I remember looking out for co-op games to play with Rachel. You know, like my first girlfriend. Oh god, oh wow. My first two girlfriends suffered through so much Capcom versus SNK 2. The third girlfriend was a long distance relationship, so it wasn't really a factor there, although I did occasionally tell her, "Look, I'm currently addicted to Fallout 3. I'm sorry." Yeah, and Rachel was a gamer, and yeah. So these parts of you and your life, your personality, who you are. When you are with somebody and they have that thing in common with you, you are more likely to share it. It becomes more special. It becomes a deeper part of you and your personality, because now it's not only yours emotionally. It's now linked with this person who has emotional... Yeah? What? Yeah? You should wait 1 sec. I'm wrapping up. So when you have that sort of relationship with somebody, and you have introduced them to your hobby or this thing that you're really passionate about, and they have embraced it and they have clasped it to their heart, because guess what, they were into it as well. You share that thing, and it will become even more special to you. And instead, he just sits there watching you play Skyrim. He doesn't recommend multiplayer games. They don't play multiplayer games. They play single player games. They take turns on Animal Crossing. She'd do shit during the day, and then he'd spend most of his streams wandering around going, "Oh wow, look at that. Oh wow, look, she built that." They played Mario Golf separately, you know. She played Lost Judgment before him. She's played Horizon before. She's always further ahead of him in games. That's because he's lazy. That's because he keeps stopping to beg and to get tips and all that. We know all that. The point is, he doesn't share these things with other people. He doesn't open himself up in that way. He can't. He's an insecure narcissist. He's insecure. He's a narcissist. That sort of thing is too deep. It's too personal. The things that he does, that he shares with his audience, like playing games, they are his job. They are what he is actively choosing, more importantly, to put out into the world himself. He is projecting that image of himself. He is a variety streamer. He plays games, you know, so he's projecting that into the world, and he's fine. But what he does off stream, he never mentions playing games off stream. He never mentions what he's playing to relax. He never mentions what he's playing to indulge his hobby, which is gaming. Because he can't. It's Champions, we know. But it's also opening himself up a bit. It's letting you all into this deeper level of who Phil is as an individual and as a person. And he can't have that. So it's shut. You're not having any of it. Immediately shuts it down. Doesn't even share it with his wife, whose anniversary they both fucking forgot 3 years into a relationship. Another rant for another day. But yeah. Okay, it's gone on too long. Fair enough. So yeah, I guess the overall point I wanted to make was that when Phil says, "I don't know about this thing. I don't follow this sort of culture. I don't follow this sort of thing. I'm not into that." It's not necessarily going to stand out to me as, "Oh, he's just not into that sort of thing." Instead, it's going to raise a red flag and look a little bit deeper. Is there something behind this? Is this him neglecting the way he socializes? Is this another example of him neglecting the way he socializes? And if so, what impact is that going to have on his personal identity? Because they are tied together. For all of us, not just for Phil. You can do it the moment I open my mouth. I better go take care of her. Sorry. So yeah, thanks for watching this unfocused ramble. What fireside there? Like a fireside chat with Steve. Or brew, because I've had a brew rather than Lucozade Orange. A brew and a fag. I should have smoked. A brew and a fag with Steve. It's been great. But yeah. Sorry, I just had to get this off my chest, my head. YouTube shorts. Somewhat woefully unequipped to handle this sort of thing. But yeah, just sort of wanted to put that out there. Keep an eye out for when he says that sort of thing, because I do think it represents more than just not being into that sort of thing. Because I mean, even if you weren't into the same sort of thing as your wife or your partner, sorry, let's be more general. If you weren't into the same sort of thing as your partner, you'd still talk to them about it. And then when your stream chat asks you, "Oh, so what's Kat watching?" You go, "Oh, mate, she started watching 90 Day Fiancé. Cannot stand that show." Just something like that. That's a bit more human. That's a bit more believable. That at least sort of carries the implication that, hey, you do talk to her about what she's watching, and you have tried it, and you have sort of got a distaste for it, but you have still put in the effort of socialising with your wife to that extent. It's that sort of thing for me. It's that. It's a symbol and a sign that he's not all right up here. It's just another one of many signs, isn't it? Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing and everything. Leave your comments down below. I'm actually quite interested to see what people think about this one, because it's out of nowhere, and I think it's an interesting point anyway. Otherwise I wouldn't have rambled for nearly 40 minutes about fuck. What is wrong with me?